most of what I've done in the past year is infrastructure at ISPs. So that's my expertise mainly. I'll ask Jaap to introduce himself. Maybe you can take the microphone.
Good afternoon. My name is Jaap and I'm a network architect. And I've been a serial hacker since I started the video net in the Netherlands, the hobby computer club, and helped to organize. I was one of the architects of Service 4, which are using today, and also helping implement right now the support project for the really high-speed networks, which you may be able to fill in the future. For the development last year, a major survey about internet vulnerability, and that's why I'm going to talk about it a bit further later.
Okay, just to be clear, the official subject of this meeting here on stage 3 is the MSH that's on the program, but we'll probably deviate a bit from that. What to do is tell you a bit about what internet exchange is, what they do, what happens when they don't do what they are supposed to do, and what we all think we should do to make it better. But first I'll let Peter introduce himself.
I work at the university here as a network engineer, network administrator. My specialty in this case is security. Since about a month I'm kernel member of the Dutch SERP team, Computer Emergency Response Team, where all complaints, attempts and the like are for the universities, high schools and all institutes within SERP that are gathered and distributed.
Can you please
so that is my point of what I'm doing.
Okay, I think Jaap wanted to tell you a bit about what an internet exchange is, and I'll start the discussion. Okay.
Well, first of all, during the project, we found out that not very many people know about the real infrastructure. Most people in this room absolutely know, but most people we talk to do not know very much beyond the screens they are looking at or the activities they see. So normally the internet is you can connect into it by modem or by cable modem, etc. And then you connect into the ISP. The ISPs themselves are either interconnected through their own backbone worldwide or at various peering points. The basis for that peering points are that they have about the same amount of traffic, so they do interconnect to disclose without exchanging money. Otherwise, they have a very interesting discussion with larger networks, how much payment and how it is interconnected. So further down the internet, there is a large infrastructure worldwide, which is relatively unknown. There are formal sketches and formal schematics about connection points in America, for instance. But in practice, they do interconnect according to commercial or technical ways. And the whole infrastructure, well, you have various pictures of that on the internet itself, is very turbulent, very dynamic. Equipment in the internet lasts about 2 or 3 years and then it's outdated and it has to be replaced. It is very congested. There's very much bursty traffic, as you know. What mainly lacks is quality over the whole system itself. Now, what is an internet exchange? I have to stress that I'm not the representative of the Amsterdam Exchange. We didn't invite them today. Amsterdam Exchange is one of the main points in Europe where the larger ISP networks are interconnected. The exchange itself has no connections, so it is mainly a place where people do connect their networks. They describe it as a kind of non-combat zone. These people who interconnect are each other's competitors, but they do share the wish to exchange traffic there and interconnect further into the internet. They are obliged to have their own backbone connection as well. So if an internet exchange fails, then there are various ways to route around this connection point. So it is very dynamic. There was a number of years ago a situation where I think 80% of the German traffic went all the way to America and back because the people in Germany did not get organized to do the peering in Germany itself. So a lot of the traffic also is still in Amsterdam, exchanged for Europe. And well, for instance, the Deutsche the Deutsche Post, or the German Telecom, it's called now, did refuse to interconnect with others. So this is an ongoing activity. It is rather unorganized in the sense that there is clearing in the internet exchanges in Europe, in London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Paris, Stockholm, and they do exchange traffic there, but it is a shared effort, and that means that nobody is really responsible, and it is very difficult to get funding to get the exchange itself established and organized.
And it's a good idea sorry for the interruption, maybe it's a good idea to tell you for the people who visited an exchange, tell you a bit how something like that looks. If you go to, if you want to visit the Amsterdam Internet Exchange, then the first thing you have to decide is where are you going to visit it, because there's 4 locations. There used to be 2, Sarah in the Watergraafmeer in Amsterdam, and a building next to it. There's only a small road and a parking lot between them. That's Nikhef. There's the other part, so there's a big fiber cable between those, and at each end there's a large switch. And what you do, if you're an internet provider who wants to connect to the exchange, you call the Sarah or Nikhef and you ask them, do you have space for a router for me? Can I house my router at your location? And they say, sure, pay us every month and you can do that. You'll put your router there. You ask one of the many telcos to provide you with a line from your headquarters to the location of your router. And then you have a connection to the site of the Amsterdam Internet Exchange. And then the difficult part starts, because then you have you're connected to the big switch. You have to exchange traffic with the other ISPs. So with each one, you have to get a contract, or at least an agreement. It can be a simple email, or it can be a 12-page contract. That I will send you the traffic that my customers want to send to your customers, and you can send the traffic that your customers want to send to my customers, also over the Amsterdam Internet Exchange. And of course, the routers implement a protocol to exchange the information about which IP addresses are within your network and which are theirs, and which you get to exchange traffic to and which you don't. Because if, for instance, I, as a small ISP, I would connect to SurfNet, then I could say, well, I don't have a big connection to America, but SurfNet does, so I'll send all the traffic I have that needs to be in America to the SurfNet router. And the SurfNet router is very smart, so it doesn't look at the packets, it doesn't see that they don't come from their own network, so that it just sends them to America. Or maybe SurfNet is smart and they look at the packets, but there's always someone who doesn't. So I can just use the exchange to get a connection to a faraway place, but the other one doesn't. So all that kind of stuff needs to be configured on the router, and also needs to be dealt with in contracts, and also needs to be monitored to be sure that people do what they tell what's agreed and nothing else. So that's more or less the practical operation from the point of view of an ISP that connects to an internet exchange.
Now, several weeks ago there was a major disturbance in the Amsterdam exchange. As a matter of fact, Dr. Ditman and I had both a speech here in Amsterdam and out in the Amsterdam exchange. And Dr. Ditman was very proud that he said all these criticism of Van Til about the vulnerability of the Amsterdam exchange is completely rubbish. Impossible to get a failure because we have 4 separate locations and backup, power exchange, etc. On the evening of that day, the Amsterdam exchange crashed. So I did nothing, I didn't touch anything, but it was very strange. There was a power failure in the district in Amsterdam where all these exchanges were. And as it turns out, there was no backup for various servers. There was no backup for the air conditioning. So there were various external things around the internet exchange itself which were not backed up. So in itself, the organization was right that they did have the thing under control, but in Sarah, where there's a single point of failure for SurfNet, there was no backup. And various other places they found out that they had things which broke down very soon. So this is an ongoing concern. Also in London they had various troubles with their internet exchange. Of course you can have 4 sides of the building where you exit cables. Amsterdam, the internet exchange is about 8 meters below sea level, and they dig cables continuously through the dikes to connect to the internet exchange. So there's various reasons that I was a little bit worried that there should be done something about it. My main point is we have to test such things, we have to do something about redundancy, and it has to go beyond the self-interest of the ISPs and the operators, that we do join forces a little bit to get this more at a higher availability.
Maybe it's interesting if Peter tells us a bit about how that experience is from the point of view of a system administrator or a security expert when suddenly the parts of the internet start to disappear from your network.
The problem is not actually the problem. The university in Twente, I think you all have seen, comprised of a number of large buildings with houses, departments, where colleges are held, where the employees are on daytime. And there is a large part of the terrain here which house the students, at least a big part of them. All students have 100 megabit full duplex connection in their room, and sometimes it seems they are 99% of their time in their room surfing the internet. So the moment some ping or some traceroute appears strange on the screen, 20% or so constantly ping or trace on a little screen or one tunnel session, constantly pinging or tracing to the outside world, and the moment something happens, they all jump up and start writing in local news groups from, what's happening, what are they are fucking up on the internet again. We at least.
So do you read these groups or?
Yes, the groups are on the local networks. That is almost always online. We have teach students that when something goes wrong, it's outside our jurisdiction, it's outside our own network. And we have them believe us until, I think they still believe us in this. because the most problems we have with external connection. If somebody is surfing on some website, he has no idea where it is. For instance, some NL websites are on servers in Australia or Hong Kong, that place. And when something in Hong Kong goes wrong, they blame us, not that much anymore. They blame ServNet because it's a Dutch website, so it has to be somewhere, for instance, around the corner. And even we back up that kind of short connection, they think. But it's...
So do you remember what happened on that day? The Amsterdam Internet Exchange went down. They opened the NDIX here.
I was at the opening, and just for the fun of it, because that day I actually had a day off, so I didn't experience all the frustration that comes from waltzing from the rooms where students are. And only the day after, local newsgroups are very good social places to meet. 10, 50 students complain, yell, shout, utter the most strange phrases, but a number of students also watch TV, they see what's going on, so they go also in the local news groups, and they tell the others from, there went something wrong, why should you stay 99% of the time on the internet? Go to a bar, go meet some friends. So,
what you're saying is that technical failures lead to social upheaval?
Yeah, sometimes. And it's sometimes it's really strange about people who are, when you look through the messages, some people almost every 10, 20 minutes post an article, even during the day, even during when you think they should attend colleges. It's very strange to look at that kind of social environment and the reactions in and out.
So that means that the power failed in some unheard of part of Amsterdam, and here in Amsterdam the students start to do strange things.
Yes.
Is that also your experience, yeah?
Well, we talked to a number of people in the Netherlands how dependent they already are on the internet. And it turns out that TV networks, for instance, you can one day do without, it's rubbish anyway. Telephone networks is about a couple of hours, and you start to get itchy. And the internet is about half an hour to an hour, and you can do nothing anymore. It's not that you are all the time on the computer, but in your daily work, most of your activities are computer related. You have a small list, a telephone, and then you have to, somebody has sent you something, you have to look at it. So during the day, you are already have your dependency. Now, one of the things which we also found out is that not only the internet itself, but the telephone network is vulnerable and congested. Some years ago, we did for the Opta in the Netherlands, the regulator, a review of the KPN network, and we found out that already now, at present, I think about 70 or 80% of all voice traffic is from modems. So already the internet is on the telephone network itself. And it completely baffled the telephone, the telcos in Europe. So much traffic could be generated, but it's, of course, you can understand that because normal telephone use in the world was about 3 minutes a day, and now people are about 2 hours on the internet with their modem connection. So it nearly blew up the telephone exchanges in Netherlands. The between the telephone exchanges, there's a network of connect layer, where also vulnerabilities are. During the test, we found out that you need the biggest telephone switch ever made by Ericsson. So it's double cost. And we calculated that we need about 20 of them in Amsterdam. And the KPN said we were absolutely crazy, that couldn't be the case. Now they have 19. So they have not grasped exponential growth. The amount of traffic which is created and the activity of people on the internet is growing so fast that it completely overruns all networks. Also the power networks in the Netherlands are not planned or capable of servicing the amount of power for server farms which are popping up everywhere. Well, we explained that to them, but they also have a Stalinistic mindset that they said it is not in the plans. We said, no, then you have to change the plans, you fool. Now they say, yeah, there are server farms installed in the Netherlands and exchange points. And then they find out that they have to wait 2 years for power. So I foresee that there is going to be a power grid where people have on a large or small scale their own power development, their own power production, and they will use the normal power network as a backup that's coming up. So a grid of small power exchanges for houses, for businesses, etc., which is interconnected, is coming up very pretty soon because we need higher quality power.
Yeah, I remember when a big American company came to Holland and they opened that big facility also about near a few kilometers from the Amsterdam exchange. They ran on generator power for months until they could get the utility power from the GED, as it's called here. And today it's even as bad that some facilities just have to find another place because the utility company cannot provide the power and won't be able to for a very long time. And as you've seen the power outage we talked about at the Amsterdam exchange, it was power that failed. It was a hot day and the cables broke. But earlier that week, that also had another problem that was less well known. It started small with some corrupted sessions between some routers, and people like me were working on that without many others not knowing about it. It soon started to spread across the switches that make up the exchange on the 4 locations. And it seemed that the switches were corrupting the MAC addresses. So within a few packets that went from one ISP to another, at each packet the MAC address of that ISP would change, or at least that the router of the other ISP would think that. So the next packet would go to some unknown MAC address and would be lost forever. So very soon no traffic would traverse the exchange anymore. And they had to install an emergency software upgrade to fix it. So it were 2 outages in 1 week. Now I don't want to tell you about the stuff because I want to tell that your Wissenman, the director of the Amsterdam Internet Exchange, does a bad job, or that the equipment is bad, or the power is bad. Obviously, each of those incidents had a reason for happening, and you can probably remove that reason, but at some point there will always be something that can go wrong, and at some point it can go wrong, it will go wrong, it's only a question of waiting. So the thing is, what do we do to get around those problems when an exchange fails? For instance, the large international networks that are here in the Netherlands, they only connect in Amsterdam together because Amsterdam is the Netherlands and there's nothing else, right? But that's really a big problem for them because when Amsterdam fails, they just route over Stockholm or London or whatever it's all the same to them. They connect with big pipes to those cities. But the situation is very different for the large ISPs within the Netherlands that are only large within the Netherlands and have their own network within the Netherlands, such as, for instance, the cable company. They have lots of traffic. They are really huge. They've grown from very small to very big in a short time. And they're getting about the size of SurfNet. Well, SurfNet is of course growing as well, but they're getting really big, really fast, and they just cannot afford that amount of connectivity to another place. So they have a very big pipe to the US or to England or whatever, but not so big that they can recover from a failure in Amsterdam and reroute all their traffic over another country. Just not, they can't afford that. So what do we do to fix those kind of problems? And I think that's one of the reasons they now have NDX here in Enschede. That's the Dutch-German exchange is the name. I'm not sure what the yes, so it's Dutch. Okay, so they also want to connect to Germany because it's so close to the border. But I think we need more internet exchanges in the Netherlands to survive. The eventual problems we're always going to get. How good the one exchange is, at some point it will always fail. So I think we need more in the Netherlands for this purpose.
Yes, that was. I've seen the growth of the common existence of the NDX from close by. That was one of the reasons from a lot of traffic is generated in universities or other big companies around Enschede or in the eastern part of Netherlands. Actually, with our 2,000 students, we are one of the smallest universities in the Netherlands, but we generate the most traffic from all universities in the Netherlands. So we thought this should be, why send this all to Amsterdam and through an internet exchange back to at home to my neighbor who has a cable modem. It should be much better, cheaper, more robust to have an own internet exchange. Not only the internet exchange can go down, but with 200, 300 kilometers of fiber cable alongside various roads, odds to get direct line through a cable is something about once every 150 kilometers gets a direct line through it every year. It's the average. So with 300 kilometers you can expect two times a year with a direct line somebody. The lanes are redundant, we have 2 lanes, but we should expect at least once every couple of years that they go to both fibers.
Down both one.
Yes. It should be possible for, and especially near your own location where the fibers are coming closer and closer and closer together. For instance, at some places, the one fiber is on one side of the road, the other is on the other side of the road. Somebody else wants to drill a hole under the road, and they jam both fibers at once. So if you have more places where you can connect, you have more fibers you can connect to other places, the better your connectivity is, the more robust it is. And the other step is, we are close to the German border. Why should we go all the way to Amsterdam, Frankfurt, München to get to the city on the other side of the border? like in Amsterdam they have 4 places with switches. It's the intention to have here 2 places, one in Holland, one in Germany, and they are also connected. So everybody, every Dutch ISP can connect in the Netherlands, cheap. Every German ISP can connect in Germany, and they have one connection to each other.
Yeah, with a very theoretical background. What is your view on this problem?
Yes, on the more theoretical or higher level view, perhaps, it's very simple. The whole structure of internet is normally, and that can be seen if you look at the sketches, structure of clusters which are connected to clusters. And it applies the so-called small world effect. Maybe you read about it. It's a very new theory which is having a mental background. In normal down-to-earth words, it is the effect that if you want something to know in the world, you need only about 5 or 6 telephone calls or email messages, and then you have reached the person who can help you with a certain issue. The structure of population and networks is very broad, but not very deep. It's only a few steps between those clusters, and you can be there. Now, the way to get this more robust is to make these very feeble interconnecting links, the gatekeeper people, or the people who transfer, or the people who work in various groups, who are members of various tribes. If they are straightened, then you suddenly make the network as a whole very much less vulnerable.
So what
you can find out where the single points of failure are, where these small channels between the populations are. You can see that on the web. The structure of the web is the same fractal structure with very large clusters and smaller clusters. In another slogan type of explanation is the 80-20 model. 80% of traffic is very near you, 20% is far. That is normal for telephone calls. For the internet, it is now the other way around still. 80% of internet traffic is long distance. You talk to somebody in the Fiji Islands, and 20% is near you. So we see in the very near future the reversal of that trend back to a normal 80-20 distribution. So we need various interconnection exchanges, like the Amsterdam or the Enschede ones, but on a smaller scale, where peering is normal, where perhaps you keep the traffic in-house or have it. Now, if you use ping, you see amazing routes through the network which are not logical, but if you look at the network structure, they are logical. If most of the traffic is still to New York, and New York is nearer to Enschede than Maastricht. And that's people in the political field and nationalistic people have difficulty to grasp that the network distance is between people and not between organizations or formal geographical structures. So we are rewiring this planet with a kind of nearness which is about 5 or 6 steps deep. Is that vague enough?
Okay, I have a lot of other things to add to this, but maybe you have as well. So if there are any questions or comments, you are free to send them our way. But I would ask you to stand up and speak clearly. You there?
I have a question. You explained how peering works. I also heard its influence on exchanging. I also heard about tiering or full tiering. Can you explain something about what that means? It should, I guess it's also a way to work together in getting traffic happening. And maybe it's an influence on vulnerability. But
I see Jaap nodding his head. So
I hope I give the right answer. There is in this industry slogans about the tier 1, tier 2, at the top level domains, etc. That's perhaps what you are referring to. But these discussions are about between very large groups, and it is about money. And if they are in the same tier in this structure which I sketched, then the same size, they do not exchange money. And that's an ongoing discussion that not only the traffic should be the same, but in both directions it should be the same. And that changes over time. So there's a continuous struggle and discussion about what tier you are. And tiering, I interpret being on the same level on those backgrounds. And but most of it is macho, and they don't have they don't give each other real figures, or they overextend figures. What is traffic in internet really? The sustained rates are very low, but you need very high peak rates. And that is what still is not understood by most people. The distribution between sustained rate and peak rate is about 100 or about 1,000. So we need very big pipes to get very few bits through. But you need those pipes because it behaves itself like a bus. It is very bursty traffic on all scales of magnitude. Now, he is very proud about traffic here in Enschede because the students have started kind of master video films. I can recommend that if you want to download some films, you do it here. And because we saw that you have 1 gigabit per second linked to the net, but you haven't been able to fill it yet. Perhaps you will be seeing it slow.
You can download a movie that you can store on 2 CDs in 8 seconds.
Okay, so go ahead. A few years ago, my students in Delft at the university had the biggest porno site in the world. And it created an enormous amount of traffic. And the boys and girls, they watched who was looking. Okay, they got a number of people from the White House, you know who, I think. People from the Pentagon were very interested. So, but the university stopped that because it was congesting the internet. So there are various large amounts of traffic coming up, especially in the peer-to-peer use, in the swarms, in the grids, the people who share computer power. But, well, to go back a little bit to the subject about the availability, what puzzles me enormously is that there are very large organizations who have big computer centers, server farms installed, and then they have a few plastic pipes going outside, and there are their fiber optics inside. And they have watches with machine guns, and they have sometimes big concrete buildings, but they forget that their vulnerability is those lines which go outside. And they have absolutely forgotten about that. They think that everybody has seen where those trenches are there. In Amsterdam, you see all those rings which were installed. You see all the people have seen where these plastic pipes are. So I do not want to be too specific about but they have completely forgotten that the main vulnerability is the connection and the quality of it. And that's what we have to go to work on. And one of my suggestions is that we will have a quality of service for the public. Now there are quality of service contracts between parties, between companies, and they have very high fines if the network fails. But why is there no quality concern for the public? They say, well, we do our best and you get a certain amount of bandwidth, but well, we try as hard as possible to give it to you. But nobody can very detailed explain what it is they sell. Nobody knows what their rights are if it fails. So we have to go from bottom up. The public has to know what bandwidth is, what is the sustained rate, what's the peak rate, what's the availability figures, and then they may want to pay for that. We have to get also a kind of payment stream coming in. There's no way about it. Students get network access for free, and they think that the network is free, but it's not true. It's paid for them by the government. We help to finance the network for the students and for the researchers, because we think it's important for them to have that access. But it doesn't mean that there's no payment made. The taxpayers pay for you, yeah, so don't think that it's free. We have to get, if it is valuable, and I think so, then we should pay a reasonable amount for what we get. But then they have to specify what you get.
Someone wanted to interrupt? Is it something that can only be said in an interruption?
Please?
Well, I had a remark about being free. I am a normal ex-student, so I have to pay for my ADSL connection. So I pay for my quality. And one of the reasons when I decide which provider I'm going to use is I look at their connectivity. I picked Extra because I knew they had quite good upstream. They had good peerings, but also high quality upstream for multiple upstream providers. So who that service that we're talking about, is that on the exchange? Or is that some, if it's on the exchange, then it's something I let the provider worry about? Or what do you?
Well, it is what the real amount of traffic you can generate or which can be handled by the network totally. If you do a download from the site, it's the end-to-end connection which you are paying.
I understand that, but I pay my upstream, my provider,
Yeah.
to deliver me a certain quality. So it's the service level between me and my provider. So what I have to do with exchange? Why would the exchange interest me?
It should be, as I say, an end-to-end thing, so you have to discuss with your own provider the last piece, but he has to have its own, yeah.
So my provider needs to deliver good quality.
Yeah.
And if he just connects to the Amsterdam Internet Exchange, and that's the only pinning point he has, no good upstream providers, apparently SurfNet has, then you can't supply it now on the Amsterdam Internet Exchange. But that means that I pick a poor quality provider.
Yeah, and I think that this value chain has to form.
It's already there.
Yeah, but the last bit is lacking. There is, for instance, Cello or other providers, they say we have a very fast connection for you. And they do not specify what fast is. And you have no right to say that it's wrong. Or now people start to measure themselves. And they say, well, this is what we get. So this discussion is on the last piece of this chain, there's something lacking. And that is what we have to get done in order to get the thing working.
But is that market mechanism?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So if Extrol doesn't provide the service I want, we go to, I don't know, at home or to...
That's right. So we have to measure.
Should someone from Access Pro want to
It's
say
a
something?
quality issue.
Can you stand up?
I agree with this customer that the ISP should take care of being more redundant instead of being dependent on just one city, for example. In our case, when the others was, we didn't have a problem. We only couldn't reach the ISPs that completely disappeared off the net because their whole company was based, or sorry, their entire facilities were based in one of the two buildings of internet.
Because only the NIC failed, didn't it?
No, both.
NIC has hard.
What happened was that the power failed at Watergasmeer location where they are both. The two others, Taylor City and Global Switch, which are further away.
Yeah.
I don't think the power failed there, or at least they had it covered, so everything is working there, but those facilities are very new, so not many people are there. So when the power failed, NICHAB didn't have any backup, so it immediately went down. But to be fair, switches of the AM6, they had independent battery power, so the NICHAB switch stayed up. But all the people who had the routers at NICHAB, who didn't have their own battery power, they went down.
So
And then Sarah, they had a no-break installation, which is which no break means expensive UPS, and they continue to run for about 30 minutes, I think. I don't know the exact figure, and then the batteries were gone, so they went down too. And shortly after that, the power came back up. But it took something like 15 minutes for everything to get back in working order again.
I have a very rude suggestion which I made a couple of times in the Netherlands, that is to do some testing, to do experiments. In hospitals there are no brake devices, no brake systems, and during operations they do switch on the power and look if everything goes right and test it. And always there are small things which were not thought of, or they find out, or when they switch back to normal power, they find out that it doesn't work, or there's a battery somewhere wrong. So you have to test such things. There's a very famous case here in the Netherlands where there was a failure of the northern three provinces of the telephone network. There was a couple of fiber optics were cut through in Groningen. Over the radio they said they were very big fiber optics. This big. Well, that was because the journalists didn't know fiber optics. In Veendam, there's the car registration authority where from the Netherlands people look into the license plates. They have an emergency system which can get, by way of radio links, the telephone network up and running again. But the first line in that plan is when somebody calls to say that there's an outage of the telephone network, then we have to put this in operation. Stupid things like this, you can only find out by testing, by putting down the Amsterdam Exchange, by looking at it if it really works. Most server farms now have backup installations, which they learned from America, where they have a number of brownouts. But I always ask, how much diesel do you have in the building? How many hours? Brownout is a temporary lowering of the power.
And not completely back to zero.
And that's a nightmare for systems because they have to go up, down, up, down, up, down during the period, and then they give up.
There was someone in the back there who had a question. Do you still have it?
Yeah. I have a question.
Can you stand up, please?
Yeah, sure. Some time ago you mentioned that it would be a good thing if the customers knew about maximum bandwidth that providers could deliver, etc. I'd like to make 2 points. First point is, would you think that that would make competition very difficult? Because, as you know, consumers treat CPUs like the more megahertz, the better. And providers would need to get the fastest links possible, even though they wouldn't be filled even for 1%, just to be faster than the other providers to get their customers. Second point is, most customers wouldn't even understand the specifications. How do you think about that?
Well, to make it very simple, they have to specify what you get, whatever they offer.
How do you want to measure whether you actually get
Now, people can measure by downloading how much they really get.
downloading from where? Because if you
Well, there are
if you put a
that is
server,
what we have to discuss and decide and implement kind of quality levels, etc. There's no straight answer to that because it also depends on your personal computer, it depends on what you are using at the moment. I think we can define through discussions the number of quality levels and the amount of payment people want to pay for that. If they decide in their perception that it is valuable, then we can specify what people are having to get if they pay for that amount. Now, they say you have, for instance, with a cable modem, you have a very high-speed connection. Bullshit, because further down the network, there can be a 2400 bits per second modem connected to the rest of the internet. So you have a very high-speed connector to your computer, but further down the net. So it has to be an end-to-end definition. People measure it in the ISP. They do measure performance, but they don't tell the customer. So there should be a discussion of more mature users who can also measure themselves what they get, and to say that what is a reasonable performance of. Now we have in all of the internet we have from 0 to 100%, and there's no layers between that defined. We have also attacks and other things. It is a matter of quality control, measurement, explanation, then we can get things on a higher level.
Do you mean the relative or absolute measurement? Well, absolute surgery, so spider, logo to make it satellite. My side software, which every IT is going to use.
I think it should be also subjective to what you perceive as a reason. If you order a beer, you get a beer, and there's not something funny in your glass which carries. We want that is important, so we have to start a quality.
Your point of performance, it's difficult to define if you don't have a fixed point of view.
Okay. Now perhaps we have to make some benchmarks. There are certain
Maybe a better way to say to put it is when you have two ISPs and they together they provide the end-to-end service between 2 points, for instance Google website and my PC at home, then I pay my ISP and Google pays their ISP, and then I start to complain it's not fast enough. Maybe I get Google to agree with me. And we both say it's not fast enough, and ISP 1 says, well, it's ISP 2's fault. ISP 2 says, well, it's ISP 1's fault. So how should we handle that?
maybe there should be some arbitration or independent people who measure.
How do you efficiency of traffic is controlled in the future with faster and less like you mentioned earlier, straight feeding of the telecom, which has helped using the whole world to the neighbor. How do you because I saw a very strange feeding policy by very other countries that I review, I like to and maybe I like to see it so when they control the whole network, they say, okay, I think it's you, not with you. And small ISPs, for instance, have to pay a large amount of money to even get a connection to somewhere else. I mean, you can control it because the internet exchange now only provides facilities and say, okay, if you want to be here, you can be here and go to how do you think you can control that?
Well, I have no idea how it should be controlled, but the first step is to measure and to define what you measure and then start the process. So I cannot answer it right now because this is diffused, they have any definitions. The fact is that they all have their own network management systems which do log what's going on. They do log the amount of traffic. Also, Exchange has very nice schematics where you can see the traffic, how it goes on. But they have not decided on the same definitions.
But how it is that people do not want to deal with each other? In the Dutch telecommunications law, there is a provision that providers of public telecom infrastructures have to interconnect. So you could go to Amsterdam and say, I want to go with Surfnet on the Amsterdam Internet Exchange. So you think that could work?
I don't know.
This is Andrew from Stage 3. Can I have someone to give me a hand to work out how to change the tape on this camera?
Depends on, say, solid base, when it's printing, you can choose down one
You're right that the danger is that the ICs are built on very powerful, we have no match and their power. There are things, you have to have choice. You have to be able to run away from that technology. And the other thing,
I know.
is you have to have measurements.
I know. You never change the type on this thing.
That's what has to start.
Yeah,
Okay, it seems that people are walking in for the next presentation, so that means I guess we have to finish or we have to talk at the same time. I want to thank Peter and Jaap for coming all the way to this
chance you get
location.
mine, it's not going to be somewhere else.
We're going to be very small exchange and to take time to talk to us. And thank you all for being here.